Yeah, write it down. Integrations. Integrations. Yeah, keep noting. Integration is a integration is the communication between two applications, two applications, two applications. Integration is the communication between two applications or two servers or machines, etc. Integration is a communication between any two applications, servers or machines, etc. Next line. Integrations will enable integrations will enable your enterprise integrations will enable your enterprise to transfer to transfer data from data from legacy system into platform to transfer data from legacy systems into the platforms as well as as well as export export data from ServiceNow into the applicable system. Export data from ServiceNow into the applicable system. Full stop. Next line. It is just facilitating interaction between facilitating interactions between two machines, interaction between two machines or system two machines or systems or applications over a network between two machines or system or applications over a network, whereas whereas API acts as interface between two applications, interface between two applications, two applications, full stop. Next, write it down. Types of integrations. First one, inbound integration. Second one, outbound integration. Inbound integration or outbound integration. Write it down. Under inbound integration. Inbound integration. Write it down. We give, we give. Oh yeah, or else write, strike it out that we give, write it down like this. We consume, we consume the request. We consume the request. We consume the request, comma, comma, taking the response inside the service now. I'll explain what it is clearly. First, note it down. Taking the response inside the service now. We consume the request is nothing but we are going to consume the request from a third party application by taking the response to our service now. Next, write it down under outbound integration. And one more thing is inbound integration, we call it as a provider. And whereas outbound integration, we can call it as a consumer. Just for better understanding. So you can mention this one. But whereas we discuss regarding like an integration, so we use inbound and outbound only. The vocabulary. Okay, write it down under outbound integration, where we are going to hit. Outbound integration is where we are going to hit the third party application. where we are going to hit the third party application or external APIs. Or external APIs. Full stop. Full stop. Next line. We consume the endpoint. We consume endpoint or WSDL address. WSDL address. I'll tell you what it is. We consume the endpoint or WSDL address and authentication details. And authentication details. Then we configure. Then we configure the outbound message. Then we configure the outbound message to do the operation. To do the operation allowed by provider API. Provider API. I'll repeat again. We'll consume the endpoint or digital address and authentication details. Then we configure the outbound message to do the operation allowed by provider API. Okay, fine. So here today we are going to discuss about like an introduction regarding ServiceNow integrations. Okay, so what is integration and why we need to use this and how many types are there? Okay, so how we are going to utilize these things? What's the purpose of using integration? So all this which we discussed today. Okay, it's just like in you after finishing this session, so you will get an idea that what it is exactly. So what we are going to do here, how many types are there? So these things which you get very clear clarity on this actually. Okay, so let us start with like an integration. So integration. So have you ever heard about like in this? So any of you know what is integration?
No, Priyanka.
No. Okay. Good then. So no problem at all. Thank you for the reply. So let us discuss this one. So integration is something, let's say I just need to let me give like in one real example over here or something which is related to service now only. So which we also did many projects as well in integrations. So here let's say there is a applications, right? So instead of like in service now is like in one application which we call it as a tool. Okay, so other than this, we do have like in multiple, right? Salesforce, Azure, Zira, all this we have. So let's say I just need to get the data from those applications or those servers, systems or machines, whatever it might be. And with the data, I just need to perform something. Okay, so then what to do? I just need to integrate. I just need to connect with the third party application or machines or servers or systems and need to get the data or else sending the data as well from our tool to another tool or else from our ServiceNow instance to some other third party applications. It might be sometimes the same service now. It might be sometimes the third party applications as well. Okay, so that's how which will go ahead with like in how we are going to communicate with the third party applications and the transactions, how that goes. So transactions might be like and they can request something or else we can request something. So if by request they are gonna respond us, if they are gonna request and we are going to respond to that one. So any kind of grid operations, let's say whenever any record got created in the third party application that needs to be sent to service now, then we can integrate with the third party application and that goes with the all the authentication details sorry, endpoint and everything, and we are going to establish a communication between third party application and with the service now. And soon after, whatever the transactions, whatever the updates is like in happening here, that will be will happen there as well. Only a limited kind of set of implementation whatever which we do, okay, the requirement point of view, so that thing will happen even in a third party application as well, either service now or any third party application. Okay, let me show you any image of this one. You'll get like in full clarity on this. Let me take care one perfect image for you to explain properly. API integrations in service now. Yeah, let me take one more. I was just taking a block diagram over here to explain clearly what is service now. Okay, so this is perfect actually. So let's say example. So we have a third party application here, Jira, other than the service now. So whenever I create any records or else whenever I update incident records, let's say example, those updates should be updated even in Jira as well. Or else if any Jira updates is available and those should be updated even in ServiceNow as well. So what we can do whenever any updates or else any kind of operations is like happening in one application, and that can be done even in a second application as well, not only the updates. So we can get the data from either any of our applications as well. Let's say example here, this is a service now R tool. So if I request something to get the data, okay, so this is a service now is requesting something to send the records whenever the incident records is created, or else if there is like an any specific custom table. Okay, on that specific custom table details, I just need to pull into Jira application into service now. So I'll request to the Jira application and they will work on my issue and they will send a response as well. So the request will send to the Jira and the response will send to the service now. In the same way, Jira also can request something to the service now, and in after working on like in the operations whatever the request might be from a third party application, and that will be sent as a response. So you can draw as a block diagram that stating on like in two circles or two square box and keep it over here service now, and then go with like in two double arrow marks, and then here write it down third party applications, machines or systems or servers. Okay, it's just for like a better understanding, so you'll understand what it is. One more thing is like in so we can integrate not only with one specific one, so with a multiple also which we can do. Okay, so see here service now which we can go with like in Salesforce, Jira, Microsoft Azure, Splunk, and Slack. Okay, so at the same time which I can integrate with like in multiple applications at the same time. So here it is like an only one application which I'm doing ahead. So here see there is like in multiple as well. Service now will be connecting to like in multiple applications, and at the same time the transactions will coming and going from one application to other application. So the application might be like an anything, but whenever we do have like an requirement to get a data from a third party applications. I need to perform any operations, or else in our service now only I just need to work on like a few operations. I need to send the data, or else they are requesting us, and according to the request we will work on that and we will send the data. Okay, so how we will work on, how we are going to do all this and all, we'll discuss in next classes. So as of now today, just focus on like in what it is and how we are going to use this one. Okay, so that's how which we are going to integrate with like in multiple applications into service now. So maybe even from like in servers as well. So there are like in many server stations might be there. So I just need to get a data from like in many mid servers or some other servers are there. Okay, so for that also which we can use integration. So integration is something, just focus on one point, is just a communication between a third party application to service now. So let's say if I want to get some data from ServiceNow to ABC application. Okay, so then I will perform integrations through web services, and then I will request and I'll get the data. Okay, so why we need to use this? What kind of, benefits or purpose we have to go ahead? But this is nothing but, here, see, let's say incidents is nothing but rising an issue compliance over there, right? So these complaints should be resolved. These complaints should be like in working, that should be worked and that should be fixed, right? So in order to do that, so they need some one platform to do ahead. So what they'll do, whatever the issues happening in like in whatever the tickets or whatever the records, whatever it might be, depends on their projects and their requirement actually. So what we'll do, we will get all the records into like in our service now, and we will provide our platform to work on. Okay, so here we do have like in two types of integrations actually. One is like an inbound integration, other is like an outbound integration. Okay, so inbound integration is something we are going to request the third party application, and we are going to take a response inside the service now. So we will request to the third party application and we will get a response. Inbound integration is nothing but we consume the request. So we are going to send a request and we are going to receive the response into our service now. Whereas if I go with like an outbound integration, okay, so they will request us depending on like an hour, their request, we are going to send a response to them, where we are going to hit the third party applications or external APIs by using web services. So don't be confused. Inbound integration is something we request them. Outbound integration is nothing but they request them. So they will ask something to do, and whereas inbound is nothing but we are going to send the request. Or else simply just keep it as like in one hint. Inbound is nothing but request coming inside. Sorry, response coming inside. Okay, whereas outbound is nothing but response going outside. So if response is going and coming, if you are clear with that, then it's a vice versa of like a request as well. So inbound integration is something we are going to consume. Just 1 second, guys. Okay, so inbound integration is something where we are going to, where response is coming inside to surface now. Okay, so you just remember in and in we have, right? Okay, so inbound is something response coming inside the service now. Okay, where outbound is response going outside to the service now. Outside from our service now to we are going ahead. So if response is coming, then they requested. If response is going, sorry, if response is coming inside, so we have requested. Where response is going outside, then they have requested. Okay, so that's how which we can go ahead actually. So simply for you, both of the things, there is like an endpoint, there is like an authentication thing. Okay, so that's how which we go ahead with like an integration, inbound and outbound. Okay,
Yeah,
so
Priyanka,
now, yeah, go
for
ahead.
inbound, we will send the request, right?
Yeah, request we will send it and response we will get it.
Okay.
That's what I told you, right? Inbound is something, the response coming inside the service now. And whenever we are getting a response, then it's nothing but we requested something, right? That's how
Yes.
actually.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, good. So that's how about like in integration. Okay, so here see we are going to transfer the data from one platform to other platform. Okay, so APIs is going to act as a interface between two applications. So let us discuss about like in what is API. Okay, so API is something application programming interface which is going to act as like an in between our service now and the third party application. Okay, so let me give like in one general example over here for better understanding. This example is just for like an understanding actually. So after getting it, so just use the normal terms only. So as of now, let's say example, I just need to have lunch or breakfast. So what I'll do, I went for to restaurant or a hotel or anywhere. Okay, so there is a dining hall will be there. Okay, and the workers is nothing but waiters, or maybe here something we can add like in some other stuff as well. And there is a kitchen too, right? So I after entering into like in the restaurant, so there will be like a dining hall. I'll sit here and I'll call waiter and I'll order, and the food will be prepared. That will be done in a kitchen, and again the waiter will come and serve us, right? So let's say example. Let me keep it over here. One more stuff. Service now. Here we have APIs, and here we have third party application. So here API is nothing but the waiter which I can say. Okay, let me explain this one and then I'll go with this one. Okay, then we can skip this after getting a clarity on this. Okay, so let's say example, I went to the dining hall and then I asked waiter to get and so on so forth. Okay, and then what the waiter will do, he will go to the kitchen and he will ask chef, this is an order, and then it will work on. They will work on that cook or chef anyone. Let's take example. Okay, so they will work on this, and again the waiter will get that food into the dining hall, so which in upon our table it will come up, right? So as soon as, let's say example, he requested something. Let's say he requested food, and waiter take this took this order to the kitchen, and then he just requested them to, this is an order and this is what we need to cook it, and the operations or the work, the cooking is done, and then the waiter will hold that and he will take the food to us, right? So that's how they are requesting the food, and then he is going to transfer the request from like an hour time, us to like an hour kitchen where whoever were cooking over there, the chef, and then that's how it will go ahead, right? So in the same way, so ServiceNow will request something. Here, not only ServiceNow, you can keep any third-party application or ServiceNow here. Okay, and this API will hold the request and it will transfer from ServiceNow to third-party application. And this API will ask third-party application to work with whatever the request might be. So they will work on like an request, and then they will give a response. And the response, this API holds a response and it will send the response to the service node, whoever requested. Okay, so this API is something they will act just like inviter. So they will take a request and they will send it to like a third party application, and then the third party application will work on an operations is nothing but whatever the request might be, creating a records or updating or deleting or else reading a records, getting a data details from a third party application. So whatever it might be, the bit depending on like an request, they will work on, and whatever the response might be, the response will be hold by the API, and the API will transform to service now. So in between this third party application and the service now, there the web services API will act as a mediator or channel. Okay, so that's what which we are discussing about, like in API acts as interface between two applications. Okay, so API is nothing but this is what an interaction or else the channel in between like in two applications. It holds the request. It will transfer from like in one application to other application to web services, and then it will take a response and it will send it to like in our service now. But whatever the application requested, then it will work on. So that's how which we'll go ahead with like an even for a multiple also which we can do ahead. Okay, so each and every request there is like an authentication details, endpoint, HTTP requests, methods, and all this. We'll discuss that too as well. Okay, so that's how about like in how the integration will work. So integration is something just be clear about like in what is integration and how many types are there and how the API will plays a major role in between two applications while doing integrations. Okay, see, please do this thing I'm requesting. So this is requesting us to do some specific applications, and here my response back to your request. So whatever we requested over here, so it will work on the ServiceNow instance API will work on, and this is an external application. So here this block diagram which you can draw in your notebook for like a better understanding. Okay, just keep on like in two things. One is like in third party application, other is like in service now, and here two arrow marks. One represents a request, one represents a response. Okay, so that's how the service now integration will work on. So whenever the request and depending on like a request, we will get a response as well. Okay, so we do have like in two types of integrations actually. One is like an inbound, whenever response is coming inside the service now. So here response coming into service now, right? Let's say example here they are requesting. Let's say service now requested this. Okay, then it is a inbound integration, whereas outbound integration is something the third party application requested service now to send a response, then that is a outbound. So whenever response going outside the service now, that is a outbound integration, whereas response is coming inside the service now, that is a inbound integration. So we request here if it is like an inbound. So see here for this application, this is an inbound integration, right? Okay, for this application, it is a outbound. So inbound and outbound will go on. If the two things is like in happening, that we call it as a bidirectional integration. If it is like an unidirectional integration, only the request will come and sit over here. Okay, and the operations will happen, and this we can utilize over here. Okay, so that's how which we work with like in integrations, and then types of integrations is inbound and outbound. So I hope API thing is like in clear. API will act as a mediator or channel in between two applications. It holds a request and it will transfer the request from like an our service now to third party applications, and it holds a response and it will be moved from third party application to service now. So that's what in between API will act as to transfer from here to here and there to here. Okay, that's how the API works. Okay, so this is about like an integrations and types. So let me know if you're not clear here, and if you have any queries, let me know actually. So if you're good with this, then we can proceed with the next one. So any questions so far? All good. So you are clear
Yes,
with like
Priyanka.
yeah, good. So you are clear with like in what is integration and how that works and types of integration as well. So if that fine, just you can give me a thumbs up as well. Okay. Yeah, good. Great guys. Thank you. So now let us discuss. I was telling about like in web service in before, right? Okay. So let's have a look about like in what is web services. Okay, write it down. Web services. Write it down. Web services. HTTP hypertext transfer protocol actually. HTTP based web services. Based web services allow allow applications allow applications allow applications to to each other talk to each other HTTP based web services allow applications to talk to each other. Full stop. ServiceNow supports ServiceNow supports both inbound and outbound web services. Both inbound and outbound web services. Okay. Next, write it down one more line. Web services make it possible, make it possible for applications to connect to other applications, connect to some applications over a over a network, comma, allowing an exchange of information, allowing an exchange of information between between the provider and the client. Provider and the client. Full stop. Next line. Web services are, or else write it down like this. We have REST API REST and SOAP, REST and SOAP, web services in ServiceNow. And we do have like in scripted REST API, JSON V2 web service. One sec. Okay, so these also we have actually, but mostly 18% of integration will be in REST, and rest of the thing will be in a SOAP, and very rare we do have like in LDAP integration sometimes, and depending on like in this requirement, if it is more than that, then we'll go with the scripted REST APIs. But as of now, just focus on like in REST and SOAP app services, which is available in ServiceNow. That helps a lot to work with like an integration projects in ServiceNow. Okay, so we have REST and SOAP app services in ServiceNow actually. Okay, so let us discuss what is web services as well. Okay, so I told you about like an API, right? So API is something so which acts as a channel between one application and another application. Okay, so in the same way here we do have like in the web services as well. So in web services will act as a channel between this. Now, what is API? In the web service is nothing but the specific interface or the specific endpoint or address of the specific application, which we can call it as a API. Okay, web service is nothing but something we are going to allow the applications to talk to the each other, just like an postcard or the message which we send or mail which we send. Okay, let's say example, I just need to send a any request from one place to other place. Okay, so nowadays we do have like a lot of advanced technology. So what if we think about like in the olden days and all? So we were using to send like in telegrams and all, right? So the telegram is nothing but a channel between two persons, right? So sending a request and sending a response. So if I send a request to like in any of a person and he will write back to the same letter, say, sending a response as well. In the same way, the web services will act as a interface. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. So something happened again. Fine. So that's how which we are going to work with like in the web service. So web service is something we just need to communicate. We are going to, so this web services will allow or it allows to talk to the other applications in between a service now and the third party application. So we are just making it as like an web services to connect. So it's just a connection point actually, so where we are going to transfer the information or the data whatever which the request is there. So we are just utilizing these web services to connect through the APIs for both the applications. Okay, so that's how the web services will work. So here we do have like in REST and SOAP web services in service now. So that's how which we are going to discuss in the further classes as well. So what is REST API and how we are going to use it. Okay, and the SOAP API, what it is and how we are going to utilize it and how the Postman tool will work on and how, let's say example, I got a requirement. So what needs to be like and done first. Okay, and later what needs to be like and implemented. So all this which we'll discuss later as well. So web services is something. So this will allow to talk to the other service now applications or else it may be third party applications as well. Okay, so that's how which will work with like in web services actually. So tomorrow I'm going to discuss about like in REST API and what and all the prerequisites we have over there. Okay, so let's say example, I got a requirement on to integrate with the third party application. If it is like in REST web services which they have chosen, okay, then how to start and where to start and what and all the things which we just need to do on to fulfill the requirement to perform this REST integration actually. So all this which we will discuss. Okay, so now I'll go with your questions right now. Any questions so far on the integration? So as a first day of a integration, I should not go with like an, dumping all the stuff in a single day. Let's take some time to understand the concepts and to we'll discuss the rest of the things later. And one more thing, I just need to discuss something. So do you need the class tomorrow? Because on Saturday, I see only 2 to 3 is like in joining actually. So can we start from like in Monday again? Or else do
Yes,
you
Priyanka.
need,
Monday would be fine.
yeah, fine then guys. So the next class will be on Monday, 19th of this month. Okay, so tell me your if you have any questions, guys.
Yeah, Priyanka, tomorrow can we have what? Q&A session, Priyanka?
Q&A session, what it is exactly?
Yeah, related to doubts.
Yeah, of course, yes. You can call me if you have any queries.
Or else I'll ask in this meeting only, Priyanka.
Your voice is breaking.
Can I ask now?
Yeah, of course. We have time as well.
Yeah. Yeah, what is a catalog client scripts and difference between client scripts, Priyanka?
Yeah, I told you this already. I'll tell you again. Let me go back to like a notepad and will tell you. So catalog client script is, let's say example, we have a client scripts, right? So what we do this, what is client scripts actually? We already discussed about
Client
it, right?
scripts works on UI.
Exactly. It works on like in the client side, so which we can call it as like in user interface or web services. So if I want to change any uh, form values or form configurations or else anything, so then I will utilize client scripts, right? So this for like in forms, or we can call it as like in client side. Okay, so it is nothing but something which we do, configuring forms and everything. So let's say if I go with like in catalog client script, so when I was discussing about like in catalogs, so if I scroll down in related list, there is a catalog client script. So catalog client script is something. So whenever I created like in variables, we have a variables in catalog items, right? So variables is nothing but the questions which is there. Let's say if I want to configure or else if I want to make any changes like in regarding making a mandatory or else making any auto populating a fields over there and all these things and all, if I want to work with like in variables in catalog item, then I am going to utilize catalog client script. So this catalog client script is only meant for like in catalog table only, catalog item table only. Other than this catalog client script, if I want to make this in a forms, then I'll go ahead with like in client script. So simply which I can say, this is for like in all the tables, all the tables in service now, except catalog item table. Whereas this is only for catalog item table. And here there is like in one more difference as well. So in catalog client scripts we will not have a on cell edit type. So on cell edit client script will not be there in catalog item. Okay, so simply I can mention no on cell edit client script, whereas we have this one because we are using this in a list view of a table, right? So whereas it is like and we are working with like in catalog client script, so the we do have a variables. Let me open any of a catalog item for better understanding and will show you. We do have a variables, right? So whenever I created a catalog item, so I have created requested for, and we do have a manager also. We can go with like a department or location or something else. Let's say if I want to work with like an, if I want to configure those variable values, let's say here we were discussed about like in form values, right? Form fields and all the configurations which we done for like in all the tables, right? So while we are discussing, I have gone through instant table. We can work with like an any table. Let's say if I want to make any variable configurations or as variable value configurations and all in catalog item, then I utilize this catalog client script. So this will have only for one table, which is catalog item table, and we will not have a on sale edit client script. Okay, so let me show you if I want to work with like a general tables, let's say example incident table. Okay, so if I want to work with like in this form, auto populating a fields or making a field mandatory read only or else hiding a field or else depending on like in one field I need to go with like in some other stuff. So it might be it will be depending on like a requirement, right? So if I want to do any UI configurations over here, then I will utilize client scripts. Whereas the same kind of thing which I just need to make in a catalog client script. Sorry, in a variables of a catalog item. Then I use catalog client script. So this will work for like in all the tables in a form view. Whereas if I want to perform, let me go to the portal. Let me pick any of a catalog item and there we have a variables, right? Let's say depending on like an requested for, I just need to auto populate location, department, and phone number or email ID and everything. Okay, so depending on that, which I can create a catalog client script and we can work on with that. Okay, so see here, I can make it as like a mandatory. So this can be done by using clicking on a while creating a variable, or else we can go ahead with the another stuff as well. So whenever the requirement is something which we need to configure with these variables other than the tables. Okay, then I'll go with the catalog client script. If I want to work with like an other than this catalog item, all the forms of a table, all the tables except this one, then I'll go with the client scripts. Okay, the simple change is nothing but if I want to make only for the catalog item, the variables, or else if I want to work with like in variables, then I'll go with the catalog client script. If I want to work with like in forms of all the tables except catalog item, then I've used client scripts. So clear? If not, let me know. I'll repeat again in another way.
Yes, Priyanka, in
Yeah.
catalog client scripts will work for particular catalog item only, right?
For particular catalog item, so only, but whereas it depends on like in the variable which we select. So variables
Yeah, okay.
also one more table, right? Item underscore option is a backend value of that. So it works with like a variable. So the whatever whenever we utilize the variable for specific catalog item, that will work according to this one. Okay. Or
Yeah,
else
okay, Priyanka.
simply, yeah, or else if you want more details regarding this, you can do one more thing. How the catalog client it was like an implemented and everything. That is a table actually. Okay, see, catalog client scripts we have, right? Open this and check it out for which catalog item, for which table it is like in created and everything which will be displayed over here. Okay, see, this is a catalog item and this is a variable name. Everything which with the change is like an on time. And if you want like in to create it, let's say maintain item, and I'll show you this on sale edit also will not be available. I was just telling this about this as well, right? Let me take any of my existing one hardware item, and if I scroll down, so I do have here see catalog client script. So it's loading. So if I open this, if I click on like, and if I want to create a catalog client script for this specific catalog item, for this specific one, okay, then I can go ahead. See the type here. If I click here, I'll get only three: on load, on submit, and on change. So now it's loading. On cell edit will not be available because we are not working with like a normal table list view. This we are working with like in variables. See, we have only three. Let's say example, whenever the catalog item load, okay, and for this specific variable, so this should work on. So that's how which we go ahead with like in all the things. So we can go ahead with like in that should apply for the request items as well, task as well. Then we will check on these things, or else it will go with like in only catalog view, which is nothing but the portal view. Okay, so that's how which we work with like in catalog client script and catalog, sorry, client scripts. And there is a catalog UI policy and normal UI policy as well. So same thing, whenever we are going to work with like in catalog item, we need to apply UI policy, then we use catalog UI policy. If it is like a normal all the tables except catalog item, then we use UI policy. Okay, so the operations and everything is same, but the place, location or the place where we are using is different. That's it. Okay. Yeah, so this is clear, I hope. If not, let me know. And what's the second question?
And related to business rules, what is
Mhm.
query business rule?
Yeah, query business rule is something whenever I want to read the number of records are there. So just like an ACL is something which gives like an we are giving a restrictions or access for like an field level, table level, and record level, right? Whereas if it's like a query business rule, it's just only for a record level. If I wanna hide few specific what do you say, records for respect to depending on like a condition role or anything, then we can go ahead. If not, we can give an access as well. So record level, we are going to give an access to respective person, or else we are going to restrict the access for that as well. So record level restrictions or access, which we work with like inquiry business rule. Whereas the advanced thing of like inquiry business rule is nothing but ACL. We do have a lot of options over there. That's why we use mostly ACLs to do this operation other than query business rule. Got it?
Yes, Priyanka.
Yeah. Next question, please.
Yeah, yesterday in the chat I have asked, right, table dot none and table dot store. It's
Mm-mm.
quite confusing.
Okay, fine. Let me, let's say example, let me keep it over here. So we have a table level ACL and field level ACL, right? Table level and field level we have. So just remember one thing before going ahead with this one. Let me go to the none and we have star. Is nothing but this one. Okay. So none is something this is related to records. So if I make it as like a none ACL, it's just only specifying records. Let's say if I open a this instance, so this one. So if I mention table level ACI with a none ACL, then I was working on like the record level actually. Okay, whereas if I go with like in the star, star is for field levels, fields. So if I mention star ACL for like, and let's say example, incident dot star, then for all the fields in an incident table will be applicable for the specific ACL. If it is like an incident dot none, all the records will be like an applicable over here actually. Okay, so none is something it depends on like in the number of records which you are going to give an access or else which you're going to restrict it. Whereas if it's like a star is something you are going to provide an access for only for specific fields or that should be displayed for like an only specific role based or condition based or script based. If it is like in star, it will go with like in all the fields in the specific table. Okay, so table level is nothing but you are allowing access in a form of like in table level. So we are giving an access to the specific table over there. Okay, and then in that specific table you can give a restrictions of like an record level or else field level as well. Let me give like in one example over here for better understanding that will not be confusing for you. Okay, I hope so that will be fine. Let's say example, mm, Abel tutor. Abel is a person. Okay, so let's say example, any custom table, demo table, let's say. So there is a demo table with records and fields as well. So in this demo table, we have a lot of records and fields. Let's say example, he has a demo role. Okay, so just like an example only for better understanding. So he has a demo role and there is a table called demo table which having a records and fields. Okay, so now see if I have given like a table level ACL. Okay, so there is like in two things, right? As you are confused, none and table dot star. Okay, so let me go with like in both of these. Let's say example, if I have given like in table dot none ACL who having a demo role. Okay, then what will happen? This specific ability will get an access of a instant incident table with all the records. These things. Demo table he can access and records he can access. Okay, or else if I go with like in table dot incident, sorry, table dot star, then what will happen depending on like in here role or condition or script, anything which you can utilize depending on requirement actually. So if I go with like in table dot star, so incident dot star, so incident table will be like an access with the fields as well. So if I go with like in star, all the fields will be displayed over there. If it is like in any specific fields also which we can mention, I showed you on that day description field which can be displayed for specific users and that will be hide for few users depending on like in role base, right? So that's how none is nothing but it is a record level, and then star is nothing but it's a all fields actually. So we do have like a table level, field level. So table level is nothing but we are giving an access of whole table to the user. In the table also we have a record which you can display and which you can restrict, and then fields also which you have a we can restrict and which we can go with the giving a permissions as well. So that's how which we have a none table and specific field as well. Whenever we select the table in the left side and the right side, we will have these three none, star, and all the fields of that specific table will be displayed. If it is none, that is a record level. If it is like in star, it is a all fields will be come up. And if it is like in specific field, and there is like in one more table dot field name, anything. So this I have showed you on that day by giving like a field name, only one specific field name, and this is nothing but all the fields will come up and this all the records will come up, and that's how the table level and the field level. And that is a one interview question as well. So which ACL will execute first, either table or field? Table level will execute first because entering into the table first, then only the fields will come up, right? So that's how it goes ahead actually. So if it is clear, let me know. If not, also.
Clear, Priyanka.
Okay, good then. And there is one more question as well, right? Roles and responsibilities.
Yeah.
Yeah. And other than that, is there any questions you have?
Day-to-day activities as well.
Yeah, the same thing. It comes under the roles and responsibilities only. Other than that, any further questions?
No, Priyanka.
Okay, let me ask others as well. Gautami, Varun, and Venkat, do you have any questions?
No Priyanka.
Okay. All good for Gautami and Varun?
Yes, Monish.
Okay. Fine then. Let me go with like in yes, okay. Okay, got it. Thank you then. Okay, so let me go with like in roles and responsibilities, and it's nothing but something. Responsibility is nothing but day-to-day activities only. So role is something you can just simply tell them what's your designation. So designation mostly if you're applying for like a developer, it depends on like an organization. It will be depending on your experience. The role will be. Let's say example, if I take when you're for mm organization, let's say no need to mention like an uh, company over here, I guess. Here, see, let's example ABC company or XYZ company. So for 1 year of experience, there will be like an a system engineer, associate, or consultant. We do have like a different roles over there. So here, the role whatever there in your certificate, and your relieving letter and your experience certificate, whatever which we are getting. So whatever the role which is mentioned in your certificate, just mention that one, whether that is a senior developer or service now developer or else associate consultant or whatever it might be, system engineer sometimes. Okay, just mention your role over there, whatever the role which is mentioned here in your document. Okay, and when coming to like in responsibilities, so this also will depends on like in your role anyhow. Let's say if it is like an associate, let's say as if you can mention it is like an as a developer. Let's say for developer the role is nothing, the responsibilities is nothing but every day we do have a scrum call which we call it as a stand-up call as well. So we will join that specific call. Day-to-day activities is responsible both are same. So end of a starting of a day, we are going to attend a scrum call. It will be scheduled in half an hour, 15 minutes sometimes. Okay, so scrum call is nothing but something whole team will be gathered over there in the call and they will discuss what work is done and what needs to be done and where are you, what kind of task which you're working on, is there any roadblockers? Okay, if there is like any dependency was there upon client or any other person. So everything which we discuss over there in the scrum call or stand up call we call it. Okay, so after finishing a scrum call, so we will get back to our work and there is a Jira stories will be assigned. So we were using like in Jira, actually Jira software to track projects. If you want more details about like in Jira and how this is like in working on, you can Google it, you'll get it. Okay, Jira software is something we are going to split the projects into like in pieces and we will track all the things in Jira software actually. So if there is a Kanban board and all this there, we will split the task into like an as a stories and each story will be assigned to respective persons. It's nothing but here developers. Okay, so we'll work on like in Jira stories and we will update the story details at end of a day to the respective business analyst sometimes, TL sometimes, and Scrum Master sometimes. It depends on your team and your collaboration, how the things go on your project. It depends on their uh, stuff actually. So we will update it end of a day. So that's how which we work on like in stories in dev. And if this is done, we will move it to like an as a test and tester will test and it there will be like a lot of internal calls will be there with the clients and your team and everything. So whether it is like in perfect, we need to go ahead with the prod. Okay, release we call it as moving developing activities into like in production. So that's how the work goes on. Okay, so story is nothing but that's not a normal thing. That's is just nothing but like task which is assigned to you. So we have a story with the numbers and we need to update that whether that is in progress, whether it's done, is there any dependencies which is there. Okay, so I'm working on one specific task and I need some information from a client to proceed. So I just ask the client as well to send a proper data so that which she can proceed. So that is one update. So you can update that in end of a day. So that's how which we work with like in day-to-day activities. So we are just going to work with like in all the things. And one more thing, there is a sprints as well. So I think already which I have discussed this in while I was taking class on updates, right?
Yes, Priyanka.
Yes, sprints as well. That is like in 2 weeks of sprints will be there. Okay, so every sprint, let's say example, 2 weeks, I just need to work on 10 tasks. Okay, so few organizations and few clients, they if I'm not able to finish the 10 tasks within that specific 2 weeks, then you can move your task to next sprint as well. And few will not agree with that and they will pressure you to finish the 10 tasks within that specific sprint only. It depends on your TL and your client and all the things, a lot of things will be like and depending on here. Okay, so that's how the project will goes on. So we are going to work with like in all the Jira stories and depending on like in the updates which are going ahead and we need to work on those things. So simply the responsibilities you can tell them like first thing the role is your role which mentioned them, and as per my experience, so I just want to work as like I was working with like in lot of uh, requirements with different modules. I work with like an integrations, you can convey like this integrations ITSM module with different projects. There I was involved into like in working on a Jira stories, so we have a Kanban board there, we are going to track all the project details over there, and each story which we are going to work depending on like in the sprint basis only. So we'll work on the task over there, the stories will be like in completed and we will update on the same day as well. If there is any roadblockers or else dependencies, we will get back to the respective persons and will clear as soon as possible. And we just put our maximum efforts to finish the stories as soon as possible. That's how which we work on. And in between we are going ahead with like in giving a presentations to clients sometimes and then showcasing with like in all the work which you have done. Okay, so everything which we work with one by one, right? So that's how which we work on, and we are involved into like in client calls as well. So in that way which you can elaborate your stuff and you can tell them. Okay, if it is like a support project, that will be different, but whole thing is something will be just like this only, depending on like in your resume whatever which you mentioned over there, just narrate something, give add on like in few phrases over there and elaborate and just put in front of them. That will be good actually. So that's how which you can go ahead with like in whatever you feel comfortable and confident, just tell them what you are gonna convey to them. Okay, so that's how it will be. And one more thing, if they were asking about like in client information and client name and requirement and all, happily you can all the things which you can, convey them, because they are not gonna do background verification whether your client is this or that, because those things are like in confidential and no one will ask you. It's nothing but let's say I work with like a one specific organization, service-based company, and I was with like let's say Lenovo. Is one for my project. If I say that's a Lenovo is my project, okay, so in background verification things and all will go with your payroll company only, not with your client. So you can narrate your stories. You can go with like an any project and everything, but make sure the technical stuff, whatever you're conveying in interview, that should be correct. Okay, so the rest of the things which you can narrate like as you want. But whatever which you are narrating, that should be appropriate and correct information should be there. Correct in the sense, technically that should be good. Okay, 1 second. Yeah, so that's how you can narrate whatever you want, but that should be appropriate, correct information you need to deliver. Okay, so clear?
Yes, Priyanka.
Yeah. So any further questions?
No, Priyanka.
Okay, fine then. Practice well. If you have any further questions you got later, you can ping me, or else you can ask in the next class as well. Okay,
Yeah, okay.
fine then, guys.
Thank you, Priyanka.
No problem at all. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. Bye bye. Take care. And next class will be on Monday. Okay. Bye bye.